your podcast and YouTube blog covering the German startup scene with news, interviews, and live events.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Joe from Startuprad.io, your startup podcast and YouTube blog from Germany, bringing you again a news wrap up from Germany, this time September 2022. Yes, it's already that late, but fortunately, I do have Chris here with me. Hey Chris, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. As you can see, I got the new AirPods Pro. I'm happy about it. It's really crazy. The noise canceling is again so much better, and like, I don't know. Don't tell my mother. One day I'm going to get hit by a car, and I won't even realize it until it's too late.
This podcast is not sponsored by Apple, but we would like to welcome you to this month in German, Swiss, and Austrian startups wrap up for September 2022. And we recorded this news episode on September 26th, 2022. As always, all news not yet included here will be published in our next news episode in our regular October wrap-up, which will be published on October 27th, just 4 days before Halloween. Isn't that awesome? Our highlights. Germany is preparing for potentially rough winter in many ways. Now the Environmental Action Germany, Deutsche Umwelthilfe, asked Germans not to put up any Christmas lights this season. Startups in GSA keep laying off staff, but also raising significant funds. We have our usual shortened list, a bit longer this month, of fundraising to show that it is not all gloom and doom here. And you will also notice that M&A activity is up, totaling $55 billion in summer 2022 for all of Europe, and is still going strong. So let's talk startups. First, I would like to thank our enablers, Invest in Hessen. This show was made possible by Invest in Hessen. You can learn more about our specialized sub-podcast with them at techstartups.sounder.fm or at invest-in-hessen.com. Startupraven.com, the best way to identify investors and cooperation partners for early stage startups. You can sign up for early access there. And Chris, as we talked before, you are the top news guy, right?
Yeah, this month I actually am, because there's a couple of interesting stories that give you a good overview over what's going on in the German startup scene right now. It all starts with Berlin's Everphone. They extend their Series C to $232 million, so quite a significant amount of money. They start their first fundraising for Series C in December 2021 and now make an additional closing of 32 million euros, which totals, according to PitchBook, at $232 million for their device as a service model. We have startup news that relate to Germany, but that are basically in line with what we see all around the world, because also in Germany, the crypto boom, or as we should say in in German language countries, because we always want to think about our listeners in Austria and Switzerland as well. And, but we see news and signs that the crypto boom is slowing. The European crypto app downloads have almost halved from 2021. Amongst the biggest drops are blockchain.com and the unicorn Bitpanda. Sifted, for example, writes, and I quote, beleaguered Austrian crypto trading platform Bitpanda saw a 65% decrease in app downloads from 563,000 in the first half of 2021 to only 197,000. So 563 to 197,000 in the first half of 2022. In June, the company laid off a third of its employees, admitting that it had hired too fast and needed to cut back expenditure amid the crypto market rout, unquote. VCs keep an eye on their investments, and the app downloads are a proxy for growth here for them, it seems. in German, not necessarily startup culture, but definitely enterprise and business culture, we saw the insolvency of a couple of really big household names in Germany because they were in the consumer market, or they are still in the consumer market. So we can, like, it gives you an idea of the current environment in Germany also for startups. So for example, there's the automotive supplier Dr. Schneider, which had to file for insolvency with at least 4,000 people employed there. And then if you've been to a German Fußgängerzone, so a German downtown, and you were shopping there, you probably saw the shoe stores of Ludwig Görz. It's a shoe retailer, a staple in German shopping streets, was founded in 1875 with big stores, 1,800 employees, but they also now have to solve for insolvency. They claimed it also partly has to do with consumers being really cautious because of inflation and even the Ukraine war. Then a German toilet paper producer Hakle is a household staple in Germany. Now they have to file for insolvency due to high cost of raw materials, energy, and transportation. As they said, Hakle is really, really big in Germany in toilet paper, and among the companies there who it came up with innovation. If you believe that innovation exists when it comes to toilet paper, but still, they came up with Hakle wet wipes, at least in the 70s. So then there's traditional Austrian lighting company Kolarz, founded in 1918, which also had to file for insolvency. So as you can see, it's traditional companies, and yeah, some of them unfortunately have to close shop, or at least in big trouble and try to restructure, we have to say, because Gertz, for example, is keeping the shops open. Next topic, podcast monetization is getting serious with international involvement. Lots of mergers in monetizing podcasts. The first Julep from Munich was bought by Libsyn, and now London-based Audi buys Vienna-based Audion, Audiomy. Audiomy. No, Audiomy. I would say Audiomy. And
Both pronunciations are totally fine, Chris.
who knows? Who knows? I don't want to get emails. We, on the more somber side of things, we also got a lot of news about more firings. Keep in mind here that most startups are likely not in financial trouble, but they rather try to extend the money they have already raised. The consensus seems to be that 15 to 20% of the workforce for most startups. Berlin-based e-scooter company, for example, Tier, fires 16% of employees and freezes new hiring. In their case, that means firing around 180 people. Berlin-based Art Night organizes do-it-yourself art events across Germany. They are impacted by Corona and let off 1/3 of their staff. In Farm lays off staff as the energy prices bite and recession looms. Tiger-backed startup Pitch lays off 30% of staff. Urban Sports Club lets go 15%. In their case, that's around 55 people of their workforce. And the expense management via credit card is the topic of startup Moss. They have to let go of around 70 employees. In their case, that's 1/7 of their workforce, 50%. No startup news would be complete without talking about meal kits. So in this case also, it's a bit of a weird news because the USDA issued a warning for Hello Fresh meal kits due to E. coli. So, I mean, it happens quite a lot in the US, to be honest, to get warnings about like romaine and lettuce, and it happens to a lot of the fast food or a bit like higher fast foods.
Yeah, usual suspect has been, for example, Chipotle. They also had had to fight with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's not talk about what my tummy does when I eat Chipotle. Let's just say I learned my lesson, and for the past 5 years, I haven't been to a Chipotle. Anyway, FSIS issues a public health alert for specific ground beef in HelloFresh meal kits due to possible E. coli contamination. So in that case, it's not the lettuce, but it's minced meat or like ground beef. So hopefully this stays a rather small occurrence. The current economic situation even hits the markets for what in Germany is dubbed Germany's most loved child. And if anyone wants to take a guess what we claim this Deutschen liebstes Kind is, so Germany's most beloved kid, it's of course our cars. But the current situation is also hitting the used car market there. Auto One competitor Cazoo leaves the German market after launching only in 2021. And despite all those grim news, there are still good news. Former Tesla CTO and co-founder JB Straubel is looking at Germany for a site for a battery recycling plant for his company Redwood. Investment in the site could be around 1 billion US dollars, which right now is around like 70 billion euros, given the exchange rate. Ecosystem news. We see that the top 3 EU tech hubs post-COVID are London, Paris, and Berlin, according to Tech EU. Berlin then knocked Dublin out of the top 3. We have news about the state of M&A in European tech in summer 2022. European startups exited at a volume of $55 billion. Then the German government is preparing for a wave of insolvency filings this fall and winter. You've already heard a few, but in Germany, there's really huge pessimism, especially going on with an energy and gas crisis. And it's really a grim mood, I would say, especially for energy heavy companies right now. You will read about Unzer. Wirecard is already known, and there are other cases where Germany has proven to be less able to fight money laundering. Now they set up a new financial crime unit. Russian pro-war propaganda is increasingly trying to imitate respectable German news outlets, but you can tell from bad spelling. The way you have to imagine this is that it kind of looks like the news websites, but then when you read it, you think, oh, something is a bit off, but maybe those articles are then already shared, and people of lesser media literacy probably might be confused as one of the new strategies of the disinformation circles. Germany wanted to push ahead with legalizing cannabis for recreational use. It now turns out that the EU contracts may throw a roadblock that way. Berlin's booming $18 billion tech scene birthed unicorns like N26 and Trade Republic. Now founders want the government to help fuel the city's growth even more. And the European Central Bank picks Amazon, Nexi, and 3 more to prototype digital euro apps. Just to give you an idea of what the talk of the town is in the ecosystem, which lets us move on to a couple of cities in what we call our hubs section.
As always, there's some smaller cities that never would get any international press coverage, wouldn't it be for us? That's why this section is here. Frankfurt-based wealth tech Diamos bought by London-based FNZ wealth management platform. And we found data from 1 year Uber Eats in Frankfurt. More than 55,000 people already used the app. Top restaurant orders are from first Asian, second vegan and veggie, and third Italian restaurants. Most frequently ordered French fries, usually ordered at 7 p.m. 1900 CT on Sundays. You can read more in the show notes. Bruchsal. Volocopter shares its latest video update showing its eVTOL air taxi is closer than ever to reality. The beautiful city of Hamburg-based Localize raises $35 million US from investors, General Catalyst Visionaries Club, Web Summit Fund, and Frontline Ventures for the employee mobility and relocation solution. And Digital Transformation Capital Partners wraps up first close of Equity 3 fund at 300 million euros. We'll hear about this again. And Munich-based startup Cargo Kites raises pre-seed round for a big dream. They want to put kites on autonomous cargo ships so they can harness wind energy and minimize energy consumption. And Sonomoto is also based in Munich, is on track to put over 32,000 solar electric vehicles on the roads this decade, they write. Düsseldorf-based online shop for high-end food, Genusshandwerk, stopped delivery with a surprisingly short notice. Now the reason is known. Founder Hans-Georg Pester unfortunately passed away after short but serious illness. Dresden-based space startup Morpheus Space raises $28 million in venture capital for their satellite mobility solution. And the city of Osnabrück, they want to rival Munich and Berlin as Germany's startup capital. They have the first success stories yet. Switzerland. Media Fair, Swiss food tech Planted gobbles up 70 million euros to create meat from alternative proteins. Speaking about crypto, not all is bad here. Swiss crypto platform Portofino unlocks 50 million to support high-frequency traders. Crypto investment product firm 21 Shares parent raises 25 million, pushing valuation to 2 billion, securing number one spot amongst Swiss crypto startups. Swiss startup Peak Data picks 12.1 million for its platform connecting pharma companies with healthcare professionals. Deskbird backs 5 million, becomes most valuable European SaaS startup for workplace management. Swiss HR tech Bicom buys Our Tandem to personalize rewards for employees with real-time performance data. Kuros Bioscience raises 6 million Swiss franc in a private placement to continue working on the drug for back pain or against back pain. Swiss-based Metablocks closes $1.25 million pre-seed round in launches beta test. Going to Austria, where 5% of business angels in Austria are women and only 70% of startups are founded or co-founded by women. The Vienna-based co-working space TribeSpace has to file for insolvency, and something we will come back to again. Austrian climate and energy fund called Green Energy Labs gets 190 million euros more to invest. We get to a news section, VC news, and Chris is doing that.
Yes, I actually am. So we know from a lot of your feedback that you are always interested in where the money comes from or where there is new funds popping up in Germany. So we decided to make it a new section, in this case, calling it the VC news. So X marks the spot as North Zone raises north of 1 billion euros. We mentioned before, Hamburg-based digital transformation capital partners DTCP wraps up the first closing of Growth Equity 3 fund at 300 million euros. IBB Ventures raises 30 million euros for an impact fund. Successful founders with exits from Sonnen, Zooplus and Flaschenpost join investor Paul Josef Patt in his VC called E-Capital. Fundraising in 2022, where we are and where we're going, is an article that gives you some background information. Keep in mind, Austrian climate and energy fund called Green Energy Lab gets 190 million euros more to invest. Runa Capital kicks off a new fund as it joins the VC scramble for Europe by moving from Palo Alto to Luxembourg, and VC firm Lightspeed expands in Europe by hiring partners in Paris and Berlin. And as you can tell, these are all articles that are linked in our show notes and are part of more in-depth information at other outlets. But we wanted to give you the overview for that, which leads us to the general news, tech news, company news section. And Joe is kicking us off with the fintech news.
Yes, let's kick a little bit off. Neobank Vivi, a challenger of N26, gets its own first financial services license, an investment license. Clients can now buy with their license, for example, equities and mutual funds there. Unser was known as Heidelpay before KKR bought them. Later, Unser bought the retail payment business of Wirecard. Now they're in trouble with BaFin for not doing enough to prevent money laundering, according to a press report. The crypto winter hasn't put off European VCs just yet. You can read more on Sifted. And according to a German press report, Berlin-based neobank Penta was bought for 179 million euros in Konto shares and payout for employees, in total 200 million euros. Chris, you got a very long list of VC fundings. As we said, we normally cut this, but we want to show them that not everything here is gloom and doom in Germany.
Yes. So yeah, time for some good news. And let's run through it. Automotive supplier Mahle is receiving a loan of 300 million euros from the European Investment Bank EIB for the development of new technologies related to zero and low emission technologies. Topi raises $45 million to power hardware subscriptions for B2B merchants. Berlin-based Latana picks up 36 million euros for brand tracking and consumer insights platform. Solsten, Minneapolis, Michigan, and Berlin, Germany-based AI-based platform, which allows brands to understand their customers on a deeply human level, as they say, to create human experiences, raised $22 million in the Series B funding. Berlin-based Candice Banks, 15.9 million euros to empower small and medium-sized enterprises with automated accounts payable processes. Cure is a laggard in Germany's drug delivery companies, but still raises 15 million euros in a Series A funding. Berlin-based iGnostics, Gnostics, scoops 14 million euros to decode diagnostics with an AI-driven pathology platform. Lycon lends 10 million euros to personalized nutrition. Plant-based egg startup Next. So Negst. You get it? Because it's the next type of egg. Next bags 5 million euros. Berlin-based MVP Match, tech talent marketplace, raises $5 million from Stage 2 capital. Berlin-based Hey Data welcomes 3.3 million euros investment to scale its compliance software solution. Just Home raises 3.3 million in pre-seed funding. And we also saw a couple of news about green startups. German-based Alchemy picks up 10 million euros to help decarbonize cement and the concrete industry, which actually gets a lot of talk. And by the way, little name drop here. I was talking about this recently with Bill Gates, actually, because I had a 10-minute Bill Gates interview, and he was telling me about how much it's needed to also not just change industries like travel and energy, but also industries like cement and concrete and iron.
Actually, Chris, of course, you will later on share the link, and we will link it down here in the show notes.
It's only in German.
Actually,
it's only in German, though.
Oh, Bill speaks German?
I made him. Anyway, Berlin-based carbon credits marketplace Caesar, that is CEEZER, scores 4.2 million euros. And Neocarbon wants industrial cooling towers to join the climate fight and raises 1.25 million euros pre-seed. And Cerulean backs green trade to offer carbon credits for forest conservation and ocean restoration.
The very last little piece, Movea Wind delivers first micro wind turbines for radio masts. We're in contact with this very interesting startup, and basically we're going to interview them sometime next year. What they do, they have very tiny wind turbines and they attach them all, for example, to the radio masts or the cell phone towers. Corona boom times seem to be over for food delivery. Here's another sign. Delivery Hero shuts down ghost restaurants. Meta, formerly known as Facebook, bought Berlin-based haptics specialist startup Loffelt in June. It now emerges that all Loffelt projects have been stopped. Amsterdam's edtech platform Lepaya acquires Germany's AI-based online coaching provider vCoach. Mercedes-Benz partners with Rivian on electric vans, and Kia is incarnating odd EV batteries as energy storage system for buildings using a startup of German railway operator Deutsche Bahn. Thank you for listening. We will be back with another Startup News episode on October 27th. Chris, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much. And by the way, you owe me a bagel. No sirens in the background today.
For once, right? It's really calm outside. I wonder if, I don't know. Maybe the zombie apocalypse is on and no one told me. And this was the last thing I ever did. Can you imagine? Okay, bye.
Bye.
That's all, folks. Find more news, streams, events, and interviews at www.startuprad.io. Remember, sharing is caring.